Doomed Marines.
Loss after loss.
The UNSC struggle against the Covenant is shown and told to us in many ways.
Pure soldier. I think that's what let us trust you.
Don't talk, save your strength.
I don't need it. I need you to be strong. Strong enough.
So whose story are we telling today? So I was playing some Halo 3. I was on the mission Cortana. Just kind of replaying the level and really enjoying the game when I stumbled upon something that I thought was quite interesting. This Pelican and this Marine. This nameless dead Marine. And in the background, you can hear a voice over the Pelican's radio. Now, I had seen him many times before, but I never stopped to check the area out. And I was thinking, what was an uninfected Marine doing here in a flood-controlled High Charity? All UNSC forces had been recalled by Sergeant Johnson.
Chief, I'll round up our survivors and fall back to the dawn.
So, who was he? Well, I believe that a clue about him lies deeper within High Charity itself. The next clue can be found about halfway through High Charity. After battling through Flood, the Master Chief can stumble upon a semi-hidden hallway. And in the back corner of this hallway, we have a dead, uninfected ODST. It's clear that this ODST did not go down without a fight. He had a flamethrower next to him when he died. Interestingly enough, the Marine that we found earlier next to the Pelican also had a flamethrower next to him, as well as various other weapons. There's also a box next to him that says socks and boxer briefs. I think that might be a good thing to take into battle, but this tells me that this Pelican wasn't just a lone Pelican sent to High Charity after it was infected. I believe that this Pelican was part of a larger fleet, or maybe part of a frigate. And it seems to me that the radio broadcast on the Pelican is actually transmitting Cortana's voice.
Tried to stay hidden, but there was no escape. They cornered me. Wrapped me tight. Brought me close.
And there's quite some foreboding things on there. And I feel like that reflects the fate of the Marine and ODST. But in order to find out exactly how they got here, we need to look further back into the timeline. We need to go back to Delta Halo.
Say what?
In the mission Delta Halo, in the Halo 2 campaign, the Master Chief is assisted by orbital drop shock troopers in his quest to find the Prophet of Regret. The ODSTs and the Master Chief fight valiantly through waves of the Covenant to get to the Prophet of Regret. But even as fiercely as the ODSTs can fight, the Covenant still remains on the tactical advantage and ends up capturing a couple of them. We know the Covenant actually do take prisoners, because of the first game when Captain Keyes and his crew were actually taken prisoner on board the Truth and Reconciliation. If you read some of the various Halo books, you will also be able to find out that the Covenant take prisoners to regularly kill in arenas or kill for sport. So it's not too far-fetched to think that the Marines stranded on this Delta Halo were actually taken prisoner and brought back to High Charity. We know they were stranded because the Forward Unto Dawn never actually came back for them, or at least we didn't see that. And we know that the Master Chief narrowly avoided dying by jumping into the water in the mission previous to Gravemind. Further evidence supports this with Mission Gravemind, where the Master Chief actually frees two groups of Marines held captive in High Charity. Once the Marines are freed, they end up helping the Master Chief in his goal to get further into High Charity. While some of them die, the rest fight valiantly. It is during this desperate battle for survival that the Flood begin to infiltrate High Charity. This causes enough chaos that the Marines that have escaped the prison begin to become unnoticed. And although it is necessary for the mission You can't overlook the fact that the Master Chief simply just leaves these Marines behind to fend for themselves. And so, High Charity will descend into chaos and infighting, leaving these few ODST and Marines to survive by themselves, slowly being picked off one by one. To add salt to the wound, I believe that the Marine and the ODST were able to survive basically all the way up until the point that Master Chief just showed up in the mission. I think the evidence for that is the fact that they remain uninfected. So if you think about it, these Marines and these ODSTs had to survive the landing onto Delta Halo, survive the onslaught of the Covenant forces with the Prophet of Regret, become captured and subject to torture or killed for sport, then freed themselves with the help of the Master Chief from High Charity, fight their way for freedom only to be abandoned, and then thrown into the ensuing chaos of the Flood and the Brute versus the Elite conflict, only to have High Charity fall into the Flood, have to survive by themselves on what little rations and ammunition they had, only to be killed right before the Master Chief shows up to retrieve Cortana. If you think about it, it's a pretty horrifying end. It's slow, drawn out, and pretty horrible. But while I might not know the names of these Marines, I get real Marvin Mobuto vibes from this. That is specifically Sergeant Mobuto, who in the book Halo: The Flood was actually the first reclaimer in the Mission 343 Guilty Spartan, who made it all the way until in sight of the Index before falling to the waves of the Flood, becoming so mangled that he was only identifiable through the dog tags that Master Chief found. And in his words, they are some tough sons of bitches.